our guest is the best-selling author of Start With Why and Leaders Eat Last. And today he's here to talk about his new book, which is called Together is Better. I believe you can pre-order it, but it is available from tomorrow. And I'd like you to introduce you to Simon Sinek. So Simon Sinek, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Yeah, it's great to have you here.
Thanks.
And I have to start off with a small confession for everyone who's watching and to Simon himself, is that I've probably recommended Start With Why to every single person I've ever met in my life. I don't think I've recommended a book more than Start With Why. So this is an honor for me.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you very much.
Really happy to have you here.
That. Thank you.
So I want to talk to you about this book today, Together is Better. And I wanted to ask you the question, what is it that made you write this book, and who's it for? So our audience is watching, who's it for, and what made you write it?
So there's one common theme that runs through all of my work, regardless of what I talk about, regardless of what I write about, which is we're social animals and we need each other. And I realized it. Like, there's this big theme that, and I try and explain it in all these sort of biological and anthropological ways, but sometimes it's nice to just sort of tell somebody about this message in a much nicer way, in a sort of simpler way. And so that's really where it comes from. It's really sort of a little summary of all my work. But I did it by telling the story through little quotes and aphorisms, and we had a little story, a metaphor, fully illustrated. It's a delight. I mean, we produced the book from the beginning. We wanted to produce something delightful, and so I'm very, very proud of what we've made.
Amazing. And you also said, I was watching a short video of yours, and you were talking about how you bumped into this company called 1229 that makes custom scents for big brands. Now, can you tell us a bit about that so the audience gets a feel for that?
So I went to this event, and just by sheer coincidence at the dinner, I'm sitting next to Dawn and Sam Goldworm, who run this company called 1229. And that's exactly what they do. Dawn is a master nose who used to work for Coty, the perfume company, so he used to produce all the famous perfumes that we all know. And they went off to start their own company where they design custom scents for brands. But the way to think about this is beyond sort of verbena and patchouli. The way Dawn explained it to me is there are 7 notes on the musical scale. And you can play chopsticks or you can play a Beethoven symphony. It's the same 7 notes. It's what you do with it. And she does the same thing with smell, which is you can have simple smells or you can have highly complex, ornate orchestras, symphonies, rather. And so they sat down with me and took me through a fantastic process, and they produced the smell of optimism. And it's the most beautiful thing. And the idea was born out of the fact that I'm sitting next to them at this event, and I turned to them and said, have you ever scented a book? Has that ever been done before? And they said, no, it's never been done. I said, well, we should really do that. And so, of course, my publisher was not excited to hear about that. But it's the first time that I know of that a book has ever been scented in this way. So it is a scented book. The smell of optimism is what you start with, and it sets you on your journey to enjoy the rest of the book.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. So this is the page inside the book. It's slightly different texture for the rest of the pages. You can smell it. I did a little social experiment earlier. I took it around and showed it to the rest of my team, and they all agreed that they did feel pretty
there you go.
after it. How important is it that a leader is intact with real life and with real people?
So it's essential, right? I think that's one of the challenges and problems of leadership today, which is, there used to be a time when if somebody wanted to know what the people inside their company felt, they would walk around the company and ask them. We would interact with each other. We'd roam the halls. Now we largely sit at desks and manage our businesses through email and instant messenger, and we're sort of very disconnected. And so I think the best leaders, despite the advantages of technology, understand that it comes at a cost and work very, very hard to work around it. So they do still roam the hallways. They still do use the telephone. They rely on interpersonal and human contact.
Okay.
I visited a company recently. Yeah. It was a startup in Los Angeles. I think they have 5 employees. They're really small. And they have an open space, and they sit across the room from each other, and they were instant messengering each other instead of talking. That blew me away.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean, at least you have an excuse if you have thousands of people. But when you have 5 people in a room, that was fascinating to me. So yeah, talking and interpersonal and this Like you and I could do this over instant message, and you and I could do this even over a video conference, but this is so much better.
Yeah. I'm glad we did it this way too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now I see all these live interviews all the time as well through Skype or Google Hangout. It never feels the same as having two people talk to each other.
There's no chemistry.
Exactly. I think Wilma's got a great question here. She says, please explain social animals with so much ego going on. So I'm sure you look at leadership and ego and people struggling with ego. How do we kind of get beyond that in our personal relationships?
So there's a paradox being a human being. Unfortunately, at all times, every moment of every day, we are both individuals and members of groups, right? We are both responsible for ourselves and our own happiness and our own joy, but at the same time, we're members of families, we're members of churches, we're members of teams, we're members of companies. Like, we're members of multiple groups every single day at every moment. And this produces some complications. We have to make decisions. So do we put ourselves first, or do we put the group first? And there's a debate. Some people say, oh, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of the group. And some say, no, you take care of the group and that's what helps, they will take care of you. And the answer is yes. It's not one or the other, it's actually both simultaneously. It is a challenge. But at the end of the day, there's no getting around it. As social animals, our success, our happiness, our joy, our ability to get anything done requires help. And those who embrace the fact that they cannot do everything alone, that they need the support and love. And it doesn't mean somebody who's physically helping you lift something. Sometimes it might be someone who just believes in you. These things are essential and there's just no getting around it.
Fantastic. So I wanted to ask you this question. You talk about how most of us live our lives by accident.
Yeah.
Now I think that all of this community that's watching, they recognize that.
Yeah.
I think the majority of people that I speak to, at least, the people that are conscious to it, recognize that. What do you do from there? Right? What do they do from there?
Right. So I'll take myself for example, right? So I was living in London and attending law school. I was becoming disillusioned with the law. I happened to be dating a girl who was in advertising. She said, you might like advertising, and boom, I have a career in marketing. Like, I fell into it. So many of us fall into our careers and fall into our jobs. And even if we do pursue something we want to do, sometimes it takes diversions, right? This is what I mean by living our lives by accident, which is we largely leave the direction of our careers and sometimes even our own happiness to others, our bosses, and all of that thing. So what it means to live your life on purpose means you understand the direction you're heading, but you remain agnostic as to the route. Most people try very, very hard to plan the route. In other words, what's your plan? People say, well, first I'm going to work here for 3 years, then I'm going to quit and I'm going to do this, and then for 4 years they got the route planned. And the question is, where are you going, right? And that to me is what it means to have purpose. It means to have destination, right? It's like waking up in the morning and saying, I'm going on holiday. And somebody says, well, where are you going? I said, I'm going on vacation, I told you. You're like, where are you going? Vacation, right? And so how are you going to get there? You're like, well, I'm taking Route 95. So you've got the route planned, but you have no destination. And you see this in companies all the time. Why does your company exist? Growth. Great. Why are you growing? Why do you need to grow? What does growth mean? Because we're a company, we have to grow. And so they figure out all of these paths for growth, but they don't know where they're going. I would rather someone wake up in the morning and say, California. I'm trying to get to California, and I don't care what route I take. I'm going to start down Route 95, and if I find a better route, I'm going to take it. If there's traffic on Route 95, I'm going to take a side road. So this is what happened in my career. People kept telling me that I was unfocused because I kept taking side roads. I wasn't unfocused. I was going around obstacles. So that's what it means to live a life of purpose. It means I live every single day of my life trying to get to an end point. In my case, to create a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning inspired to go to work, feel safe when they're there, and return home at the end of the day fulfilled by the work that they do. That is the destination I'm trying to reach. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to try every path I can to get there. Highly, highly focused. That's what it means to live a life on purpose.
Amazing. So I love that because it's so not about a container. The destination isn't a container or a box. It's a purpose. It's much more about...
It's a contribution to the world.
Exactly. And that's what I've been trying to shift from is I've really been speaking to the audience about how we can find our passions and then use our passions for others where they become a purpose. When we act in a way that's greater than ourselves.
I would actually go the opposite.
Go for it.
Which is, we're often given this advice, like, do what you love.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Yes.
Like, find your passion. Like, thank you. Like, great. I don't know what to do tomorrow. For me, passion is the result of something, right? So if you work hard for something you don't believe in, that's called stress. And if you work hard for something you do believe in, that's called passion. So it's finding the belief, it's finding the cause, it's finding the purpose, and the passion then shows up. So it's not about doing something with passion and then finding the cause. It's finding the cause, starting with why, and then the passion is what results.
Simon, has writing become easier or harder since your first 2 books?
I mean, there's no sort of romantic illusions I have for writing books. I think it's awful. It beats me up. But it's worth it every time because I get to share my ideas and I get to offer some inspiration to people who believe what I believe.
Brilliant. So Saeed's asking a question: can an introvert become a good leader?
Oh, absolutely. I'm an introvert. People think that because I stand on the stage I'm an extrovert, but I actually try to sort of avoid sort of big gatherings and things. I'm an introvert, but absolutely. I get asked this all the time, sort of what are the characteristics required to be, vision, charisma. I know some fantastic leaders who don't have big Steve Jobsian visions. I know some fantastic leaders who don't have like tons of energy and bouncing around and charisma. They're sort of quiet and sort of keep to themselves. However, what all great leaders have, in my opinion, is courage. They have the courage to do the right thing. They have the courage to speak truth to power. They have the courage to do something that's unpopular or put up with the extreme amounts of pressure from external sources that are pushing them to do something more expedient, more short-term, to do something that's better for the long term and for the people. Courage is it. So absolutely, introverts actually make fantastic leaders. A lot of great leaders are introverts.
Is Apple still operating from your golden circle model? Is Apple still operating from that standpoint? And I don't want to put you on the spot there, but it's a good question.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I mean, these things, unless there's some sort of really sort of irresponsible leader in place, they don't take sharp left or right turns. It's not what happens. But the question is the intensity there? I don't know. I don't know. I do feel that the sense of revolution has calmed, and the new products come out and you go, okay, it's some nice new features and benefits, and I understand that some products are simply stepping stones, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the next 5 to 10 years looks like.
Okay, fair enough. I hope that satisfies it. Yeah, definitely.
There's some cracks showing.
Yeah.
Nothing that's going to bring but there's some cracks showing.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's always great to analyze the companies from that model. So yeah, good question. What if the people you're leading don't want to be a part of this group, want to be individualistic? I see that especially with programmers and graphic designers who need to focus on what they are doing.
Right, so what you're doing and feeling a part of something are not the same thing. I want people to focus on doing good work, but I want them to feel like the work that they're doing is contributing to something bigger than themselves. I want them to feel that when they do good work, it helps others do good work. In other words, it's not just doing good work so I can be great. I mean, you see this a lot in companies where somebody in engineering is like, well, my idea is perfect, but done in a way that can't help the marketers. No communication, for example. So you want whatever work you're doing to be able to help other people do their work. It's not about my success, it's about our success. And in those cases, we can't force people to do anything. To me, the law of diffusion of innovation, which I wrote about in Start With Why, is religion to me. It's not about forcing everybody to do anything. It's about finding those early adopters, offering them top cover, clearing a path for them, and allowing them to create a momentum that others will follow. That's really the only way. And people come along at their own pace. We can't get people to come at our pace. We have to be okay with the fact that they'll come eventually and some won't come at all. But we welcome them when they're ready.
Fantastic. Great. So I hope that answers your question. So I've been flicking through this book ever since I've had it, and there's some great quotes in it. It's a book of metaphor, but full of beautiful and wonderful quotes. And one of the ones that stood out to me was, we achieve more when we chase the dream instead of the competition. And I wanted to ask you that question in terms of, we see so many people, we're so much struggling with just dealing with the competition. How do we make that mental shift where you start chasing the dream and not the competition?
So it's very, very funny, because if you think about the companies obsess about their competitors, which is fine tactically, which is fine for short term, but long term, most companies aren't brought down by the competition they know about. They're brought down by the competition they don't know about. Some new emerging technology. Do you think the music business was paying attention to the computer business at all? Of course not. They were paying attention to other music companies. MySpace wasn't focused on Facebook. They didn't even know Facebook existed. But it's Facebook that brought them down or significantly hurt their business, right? In other words, if you don't even know who your competitors are, what's the point of fixating and making all of your business decisions based on competitors? All we're doing is reacting. This is why purpose matters. It gives us a North Star. Yes, we have to concern ourselves with our competition from a tactical and short-term point of view, but to make long-term strategic decisions based on a competitive set that we don't even know if it's complete, based on technology that we don't even know it's completely fully baked, is madness. It's absolutely madness, right? So you want to fixate on the path. At the risk of making the answer too long, I'll tell you a quick funny story.
Go on.
So I spoke at an education summit for Microsoft, and I spoke at an education summit for Apple, right? At Microsoft, I would say, and this is under the Steve Ballmer days, I would say that 70% of the executives spent about 70% of their PowerPoints talking about how to beat Apple, right? At the Apple summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their PowerPoints, or their keynotes, talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. Brilliant. One was obsessed with the competition, the other one was obsessed where they're going. And the impact is obvious.
Yeah, that's a great little anecdote there, great story, and it's true. How would someone know if they're doing something for their why? How do you know?
Oh, you can feel it. You feel it. Do you ever have that experience where you feel like something's wrong?
Yeah.
You know, sort of you're like, you make a decision, but it makes you uncomfortable. You're not following through with your cause or your purpose. And you ever have a decision where everybody's like, you're crazy. You're like, this just feels like the most natural, normal thing I could do. I'm not even in doubt here. You know, right? Now, the problem with simply running on gut is it's not scalable. Yeah. This is the reason we want to learn our why, learn to articulate and be able to speak our why so that others can understand why we're making the decisions we're making. Because the problem is, if you only trust your gut, to those around you, sometimes it does appear that we're crazy or unfocused. And so people leave us and don't help us because they think we're nuts. The minute we can articulate and speak that why with clarity that others can understand, then not only will they have context for the decisions we're making, but they'll rally to help us and even do things that we didn't even ask because they understand the higher purpose that we're trying to advance. So you just know. It's a terrible answer. But you can feel it. And this is where joy and fulfillment in our work come from, which is different from happiness. You can win a big client, get a promotion, get a raise, happy. You know, do a good job, produce something great, happy. But that feeling dissipates. It doesn't last for, it certainly doesn't last for months or years. It might last for days or weeks, right? That immensely happy feeling that we all had of that big client we won or that big promotion we got is now gone. Joy, fulfillment, which doesn't mean that we love every day, but joy and fulfillment comes from that feeling that every day our work is contributing to something bigger. And that's way more important.
Awesome.
Or at least as important.
Awesome. Darika, you're saying, what is your take on leadership for women, since in America we're approaching female presidency, is the question. So,
it's not that we need more female leaders, it's that we need more leaders to act like females. Women just happen to be better at that. Traditionally male characteristics like aggression or decisiveness is only one part of leadership. But there are traditionally feminine or female characteristics like patience, like caring, like maternal instinct, that are extremely important, if not essential, to good leadership. So the problem in America today, if not the world, is we have lopsided leadership. We put too much emphasis on male leadership, and we need to balance it off. And the best leaders, whether they're male or female, embody patience and calm and caring and that motherly instinct or fatherly instinct, like that parenting instinct. And so we need it more balanced. So absolutely, we need more female leaders, but we need them to act like females. We don't want them to act like men. I don't want women who are decisive and aggressive. I want women who are caring and patient and all of that good stuff. I want men like that too. So yes, we definitely need more female leadership.
That's definitely a refreshing perspective. I don't think I've heard that before. So it's good to get that insight. Hopefully that answers your question. So we're going to go into these quick-fire, quick-time questions with Simon. And I'm going to ask him a bunch of questions that hopefully you guys will enjoy. Every time he gives an answer that you like or any comments, just comment away in the comment section and press share just before we quick off right now so you can have everyone see Simon on the hot seat on his toes.
Yeah,
so here we go.
I'm ready.
So I want you to react in one word to the following.
I can try one word.
Companies that say our customers come first.
That's my reaction. Yeah.
Companies that say our employees are first.
I love those. Love those.
Okay. Companies that say the future is bright.
I agree. The future is bright.
An idealist that says everyone has a purpose.
Everyone does have a purpose. It's a matter of fact.
Okay, awesome. If you wake up as the following people, what's the first thing you would do?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, CEO of General Electric.
Offer my people something to believe in and make sure that they know that they come before anything or anyone else.
Okay.
Especially a shareholder.
Okay. CEO of Wells Fargo in where they are.
I mean, yeah. That if we put people before numbers, we wouldn't have the problems we're having.
So go backwards.
Yeah.
CEO of Apple?
Continue down to take the torch that was lit for us and figure out ways to bring that torch into the future and make sure that people come along.
And how about a new graduate out of business school?
Find a job you love. More important than finding a job that pays you the most. Because you might get the job that pays you the most immediately, but you'll run out of steam and you'll get rich and you won't be happy. Whereas you find a job you love, you will absolutely make more money over the long term and you'll have joy along the way.
Okay, from someone who wrote The Start With Why, wrote Leaders Eat Last, and wrote Together Is Better, what advice would you give to Donald Trump?
I mean, be more inclusive.
Okay, what advice would you give to Kanye West?
Be more inclusive.
And what advice would you give to Taylor Swift?
Well, she's pretty inclusive.
Okay. And the first name that comes to your mind when you hear the words ideal leader?
I like the Pope.
Okay. Wasn't expecting that.
I like the Pope. I like Lady Gaga.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if you think about the old Pope, you know, really sort of not loved even amongst a lot of Catholics. Think about the new Pope, right? Beloved amongst Catholics and beloved about people who aren't Catholic. It's because he stands for something. He's consistent. He's inviting. He's inclusive. He's looking for ways to help bring people on the path, not looking for ways to keep people away from the path. I think Pope Francis is pretty great.
Awesome. Big shout out to the Pope.
Yeah.
Everyone who's watching, give a like to that. And the final one, one more before the final one. When you say I'm not going to say the worst leader, but the most challenged leader, the leader you think needs the most help, the leader that you think should hire you and sit with you one-on-one.
Oh, they wouldn't hire me. They wouldn't like me at all. What are you talking about? I mean, speaking generically, the challenged leaders are the ones who believe that their purpose is to offer shareholder value. They're very good at making short-term decisions. They're very good at providing short-term value. And they're also very good at destroying cultures and really creating long-term problems for their companies. A lot of the companies that we've talked about today, Wells Fargo being a great example, have spent so much time appeasing an external constituency that they've actually broken their company. They've made their cultures places that aren't trustworthy and cooperative environments. People who work there don't feel like they can trust everybody. So speaking generally, I think the ones that believe that shareholders come first, which is, by the way, just a leftover notion from the 80s. It's not an old idea. It's not like it's Milton Friedman, who's from the 70s, who said these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly like the purpose of business. It's only since the boom years of the 1980s. So these days it's outdated thinking.
Awesome. And the first name that comes to your mind when you think of a leader of the future or potential, when you've worked with someone, maybe you've seen someone that you think's going to make a change?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of young leaders that I think have a lot of potential. I think some of the folks at Airbnb. I think Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, I think, really offer a lot of potential for what the future could look like. It's a young company. They're still figuring some of the pieces out, but I'm watching them. I'm watching Charlie Kim, the company that most people don't know about, called NextJump. He's experimenting with obsessively putting his people first. I'm watching Charlie to see how the future rolls out. There's some young leaders that are rejecting the old notions of how businesses should run and really pioneering the future.
If you did your Why TED Talk again, which company would you use to show the best representation in the modern market for leading with their purpose?
I like Barry Waymiller. It's the companies that I wrote about in Leaders Eat Last. I like Barry Waymiller. I like Costco a lot. Some of the ones that we know about still, some of the good ones are still pretty dominant. Some other companies are just too young to tell. Okay,
brilliant. Good answer. Let's have a look at some more of these. How do you build trust faster within a team? Says Lee.
How do you fall in love faster? I mean, these are like, you don't. it takes as long as it takes. I hate to say that. You can go to the gym for 9 hours, but you won't get into shape. But if you go to the gym every day for 20 minutes, you will get into shape. But the problem is I don't know how long it takes. It'll be a little quicker for some, a little slower for others. And so there's no app for trust. There's no app for that. This is a human condition, and we have to do the things that are right for human beings. And you won't build trust with everybody on the team at the same pace. Some will be quicker and some will be slower. How long does it take to make a friend? I don't know. I just know that if you do the right thing, you will make a friend.
Yeah.
But you can't rush these things, because if you rush them, you're going to leave things out, and it becomes a very superficial, transactional relationship. It's not a deep, trusting relationship.
Fascinating. I think that's a great answer. I hope that answers your question, Lee. Thank you so much for sharing it. I'm going to take one more question that's here. And it's actually based on a quote that I pulled out. So one of the quotes I pulled out was, again, from Together is Better, if you're tuning in right now. Bad teams work in the same place. Good teams work together.
Yeah.
I love that. It says so much.
The word team is so bandied about so easily. Like, this is my team. It's like, no, you just happen to work in the same office. You're assigned to the same product. But do you love each other? Do you trust each other? Do you care about each other? Will you sacrifice for each other? Do you take real joy in seeing your friends, your colleagues, your teammates have success? Or are you bitter and angry that they got promoted before you? Do you mind that you sometimes don't get the credit? That's a real team. There's real love there. The rest, I think, are just colleagues.
And how are people, I see a lot of questions here around dealing with a negative team, or dealing with a team where we feel people may not have the right intentions or the right motives. How do people work with that? The viewers are asking.
It happens. And the answer is, don't worry about it. Like, we can't obsess about the ones that are doing something wrong. We obsess about the ones that are doing something right. Instead of criticizing the ones that are negative, we want to build up and compliment the ones that are positive. Because when that's the reward structure, which is finding and identifying and rewarding good, then everybody wants to be rewarded and recognized, and so eventually the behavior comes in, as opposed to criticizing wrong. Nobody wants to be criticized, and all it does is it makes people back away and afraid. So the point is, ignore the negativity and focus on the positivity, and start obsessing about the people that are doing something right. I learned this lesson the hard way. I wrote a blog, and we had somebody write in with a very aggressive sort of note to me, and sort of saying I'm a hypocrite and all of this stuff. And my team got together and we discussed our response, and somebody wrote back, and he wrote back a very nasty response back, and we thought, okay, how do we react to this? And I eventually got on the phone with him and tried to talk with him, and I talked him off the shelf and talked him off the, it was okay. And about 6 months later, I wrote another blog, and he wrote another, and we got together, and it occurred to us, we were spending all of this time with one negative person. Yeah. And we were ignoring all of the people who wrote in compliments and were supporting our work. And so we literally made a decision that day that when we got results like that, we wouldn't care. And that if we were going to invest any time of our people, it was going to be to say thank you to the people who were helping us and helping compliment us and helping advance the message. And so I personally don't respond to those at all anymore, ever, but I regularly call people up to say thank you for helping advance the cause. And it feels nicer. And there's time better spent, and we're not wasting time anyway. So yeah, focus on the positive.
Well, there you go, guys. Focus on the positive, amplify the positive in your workspace today. Go and find an opportunity where instead of wasting your energy to focus on the negative, you can go and find someone who's doing something positive, doing something right, maybe making a difference in the workspace. Go and boost them up. Go and notice them.
Absolutely.
Go and recognize that.
Recognize when things are done right, rather criticizing when things are done wrong.
There we go. So Ted, how can I share your cause to inspire others in the best way?
Do it. Live it. I mean, my work is I'm simply a preacher. I'm simply spreading ideas. I love it when people take my ideas, embrace them, make them their own, and bring them to life. So become the leader you wish you had. That's the greatest way you can help me advance my cause. Remember the vision I talked about. Creating a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning, inspired to go to work, feel safe when they're there, and return home at the end of the day fulfilled by the work that they do. I cannot do that alone. And so it's the people out there in the workforce who, whether they have one direct report, no direct reports, 100 direct reports, you are the ones. Ted, you are the one. You have to help me create this world that I simply talk about. I'm a talking head. I'm a blowhard. That's all I do, right? So I actually need people out there in the trenches to build these organizations, to build these teams, so that together we can create this world.
Fantastic, guys. So you can get Together Is Better, pre-order it today, and it's out tomorrow. I believe. So it's out tomorrow,
yeah.
but you can pre-order it today. We've popped the link into the live feed. I'm going to say a massive thank you to
thanks for having
Simon for being a fantastic guest. I hope you enjoyed that conversation just as much as I did. Simon, any last words for our viewers today?
Yeah, just a reminder that work is difficult, life is difficult, and to think you can do it alone is madness. So ask for help and be open to help when it's offered. Together really is better.